I'm going to go ahead back over and get stirring on my chili. Make sure it doesn't need any more liquid. Keep a couple good stirs on my pasta, and then we can go ahead and get started on the next sauce. Yeah, see how thick that's getting? It's like a nice, big, thick stew there. All right, this is simmering down nice. Again, the flavors are so strong coming off that. And then the only thing we have left to do with the puttanesca is add some tomato sauce to it. And again, how quick was that? What did that take us? About 7-10 minutes, and we've got a whole dinner ready to go. So here we go. Let's use so I'm not making a mess all over my stove here. That startled me. And there we go. There. That was one of those tomatoes that I didn't break up. And that's it for that one. Puttanesca. You're not making a big giant pot. This is a nice sauce that you don't use a lot of. Puttanesca goes great with a lighter pasta like an angel hair. There, we'll let that simmer. Everything else is working. And then we'll go ahead and get ready to set up for some chicken cacciatore. All right, now that our puttanesca is all ready, we're going to go ahead and move that so we can strain the pasta and push the puttanesca back so we can get going on our last dish. The last one we're going to do is cacciatore. We'll get to that in just a minute. All right, let's get the puttanesca moved. We've shut it down. It's all nice and glossy. Pretty. The sauce is beautiful. It smells fantastic. And again, always have something in your hands. This is going to be real hot. So let's get this pasta off the stove. These are great. The self-straining pots, you're just going to pull it up, go right into the sink, run a little cold water over it real quick, and just let it be. It'll strain all by itself, and by the time we get back to it, it'll be all ready to go. So come on back over. Get this back on the back burner, and let's get started on cacciatore. We're going to go ahead to the fridge and grab our leftovers. I think we've got some nice leftover bell peppers from salad this week, and some onion, a little red and a little white, doesn't matter, and some mushrooms. And there's a half roasted chicken from dinner last night. Let's get it going. All right. Seems like a lot of stuff. There we go. All right, let's start with our vegetables. The chicken's going to be a little messy because it's a half chicken that we ate some of, and we're just going to go ahead and pick the rest of the meat off it so we can throw it right into our leftover sauce. And the first thing we'll do is the onions. Again, it's going to be a nice rough chop, so we're no worries on anything. I left my onion bowl over here by the stove though, so let's grab that. So we've got something to drop them into when we chop them up. So these I'm just going to give a nice little rough chop to on the onions. Again, rough chop. Use those fingernails. Keep your fingers straight up and down so you don't cut yourself. If you only have red onion, use only red onion. If you've got red and white, use red, white, sweet, Vidalias, whatever you got going on. There's a good amount of onion there. And our bell peppers. So we've got some red and some yellow. I think that as long as you're working with red or yellow or orange or even the purple peppers, they're a little sweeter, but the skins tend to be a little bit thicker on a pepper like that. So you're going to want to go ahead and, again, make sure when you're chopping from the inside out. We're just pulling the core out of the pepper. I'm doing it over the sink so we don't get seeds all over our board. And make sure you get the ribs out as well, because they've got kind of a little bitterness to it, like the pith of an orange. There we go. And again, we're going to chop from the inside out. That way, if you're chopping from the outside, if your knife's not so sharp, it may slide off, and that's a real good way to cut yourself. So go from the inside out, and a nice rough chop. And again, you know, one of the things that I love so much about learning how to cook from my grandmother is that everything was done so rustically. I don't think I ever in my whole life, with the exception of baking cookies at Christmas time, ever saw her use a measuring spoon or a measuring cup. Everything was just by taste and by smell. The rule of thumb is this is a palm full. Whenever you're using parsley and basil and oregano, a whole palm of parsley to a half a palm of oregano and a half a palm of basil. The silly little things I remember from childhood. That and her favorite lasagna lesson is never any white with the red when you're laying a lasagna. I always loved that one. She was very strict about that. All right, and then a few mushrooms. Let's give it a quick wipe so these don't roll off on me. Mushrooms you don't want to get wet. If you run the mushrooms underwater, they'll tend to get a little tough. So if you see there's a little tiny bit of dirt on this mushroom, you just want to take your towel and give it a good little wipe off. Because again, if you run them underwater or soak them in water, they'll get tough on you, and that's no fun. And we love mushrooms. So again, a nice quick trick for the mushrooms, if you take the side off, lie it flat, it's not going to roll around on you, then you'll be less apt to cut yourself. And again, we're just going for a nice rough chop on the mushrooms. Mushrooms are going to cook way down, so even if they seem like they're a little bit big, that's okay. So that's good. We got a nice bowl of mushrooms going here. And then our chicken. So again, this is the messy part. So we're just going to go ahead. I'm going to take the wing off, which is usually real easy. As long as you grab at the joint, you should be able to pull the wing right off. There's a little bit of meat on the wing. There's not a lot. But everything that's left you can save for chicken stock. And then we'll go ahead, get some of the skin off, and then this should pop right off. See how nice and easy that is? As long as you're popping at the joints of the chicken, it should pull right apart nice and easy for you. And again, save all your skin and all your bones. It takes no time at all to make a nice fresh chicken stock. So when you want some nice chicken soup, it's all ready to go for you. I'm just going to give it a little rip. Make sure we've got some nice chicken in there. Seems a little messy, but again, if your hands aren't in your food, it's not going to taste as good. There we go. We'll save the leg for the soup. And then let's get some sliminess off me here. And go right down with your knife. On the breast, we want to find the breastbone, which is right in the middle of the chicken here, and go right along the side, nice and easy. Okay, and you'll be able to feel it pull right off for you. And then come down along the bottom and give it a nice little cut right there, and you should be able to pull the whole breast right off, just like that. And there we go. We'll give this a little rough chop. And it's nice, we saved the cacciatore for last, so now my board's all covered in chicken, and we don't have to come back to it. Because you always want to make sure when you're working with chicken, even though it's cooked, I still like to make sure that when you're working with chicken, you do a nice cleanup after you're done. All right, let's give a good little wash here. Grab our pot and head on back to the stove. There we go. Got one down here somewhere. Here we go. All right, we're going to take this front spot and get our pan nice and hot. Front. Oops, there we go. There it is. All right, and like we've been talking about, we're going to go ahead with the regular olive oil. Give it a good coat on the bottom of the pan. And, of course, the rest of our garlic. And go right in there. And then we'll grab our ingredients. We're going to need our onions and our bell peppers first. And we're just going to go ahead and dump them right in the pot and let them start to work. So there goes all our onions. Get them all out of there. Because again, this is the leftover sauce. You don't want leftovers from the leftovers. So we'll use them all up. And our peppers. We got some red, some green, some yellow in there. Whatever you got hanging around is going to work great in this. So let's go ahead and let these cook a little bit. We're going to add our salt and pepper again to help pull the moisture out of the onions and the peppers and help them start to cook a little faster. And give it a good liberal amount of salt and some nice pinch of pepper. Get our fingers wiped off here. There we go. We can hear the sizzle start on that. It's also a very colorful dish. All right. In the cacciatore, we're going to go ahead and use the same kind of seasonings that we used in our sauce. Because we've already got our sauce all seasoned, we're not going to need anywhere near as much. But a little extra parsley, a little extra oregano, and a little extra basil will bring out the flavors a little bit more. I'm just going to use a pinch of basil. It's got to be one of my favorite herbs, basil. And again, a little more parsley, because always if you're using basil and oregano, it's a little more parsley to the basil and on the oregano. Give it a good stir. Again, let the oil pull the flavor out of the basil and the oregano. Let all the flavors produce in there. And then we're going to go back to the red wine for this one. Going to give it a nice little go around with the red wine on this. A couple times around the pot on this one. This one's going to cook a little bit longer with just the wine and the vegetables, and then like the puttanesca, the sauce is going to go in at the very end. You can hear it sizzling now. We'll go ahead with our mushrooms and our chicken. And then our chicken. And again, the chicken's got a nice rough dice on it, whether you rip it with your hands or whether you give it a nice chop, it's all going to break down a little bit in the sauce. That's a nice pot full of food. Yeah, we'll let that cook for just a minute. And then we'll probably take about what's left in the tomato sauce pot and add it right to this and then just let it go. So we'll give this a good mix, let everything get coated with the red wine. I always call cacciatore the sauce with the purple chicken in it, because I always like to add red wine to cacciatore, and you know when your cacciatore is ready for the tomato sauce is when your chicken turns purple from the red wine. So let's check on the chili here. I think that's just about done. We can make sure that's all shut down. That looks gorgeous. And there we go. We're going to take the rest of that tomato sauce, getting my hot pad ready here, and drop it right in here with the chicken and the peppers and the onions and the mushrooms and all those herbs and that yummy red wine. And then just let this one simmer as well. So let's go ahead and drop the tomato sauce in. Whoops, wrong way here. Let's get this long so I can grab both handles, because that's been back there simmering away for this whole time. All right, in with the tomato sauce. There we go. Now how about that? In the time that it takes you to make one big pot of sauce, you got 4 meals going. And that's it. You just want to let this cook for a little while, simmer, let all the flavors marry, and you've got a giant pot of chicken cacciatore. Now that everything's all ready, you wouldn't believe what it smells like in here, we're going to go ahead and plate everything up. So come on over. I strained the pasta, the rigatonis, and we're going to go ahead and start with the cacciatore. So we've got, I love to serve my food on white plates because it makes the food pop. Just put some macaroni on here.